Another day, another story. The explorers not only produced maps from their 1804 to 1806 expedition to the American West, they also recorded some 122 animals new to science. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark are known as trailblazing explorers of the American West, not pioneering scientists. Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel. But during their 8,000-mile journey from Missouri to the Pacific Ocean and back between 1804 to 1806, Lewis and Clark discovered 122 animal species, including iconic American animals like the grizzly bear, coyote, prairie dog and bighorn sheep. When President Thomas Jefferson first charged his assistant Lewis with the mission of finding a passable river route to the Pacific, he included an assignment to observe the animals of the country generally, and especially those not known in the U.S. the remains and accounts of any which may be deemed rare or extinct. Jefferson was especially enticed by fossils recovered of mastodons and a type of giant land sloth he dubbed the megalonyx, big claw. Unsure of what species the men would encounter in the wilds beyond Missouri, Lewis took crash courses in botany, zoology and specimen collection and preservation from the best scientific minds in Philadelphia. Clark describes a village of small animals. One of the most remarkable periods of the expedition, zoologically speaking, occurred between September 4 and September 24, 1804 during a 263-mile trek from the Niobrara River in Nebraska to the Teton River in modern-day Pierre, South Dakota. In a span of just over 2 weeks, Lewis and Clark encountered 4 classic western animals for the first time: the prairie dog, pronghorn, coyote and the jackrabbit. In his September 7, 1804 journal entry, Clark describes a village of small animals discovered in Boyd County, Nebraska. The men found a sloping hillside containing great numbers of holes on top of which these little animals set erect, make a whistling noise and when alarmed step into their hole. Anxious to capture a live specimen, the men tried digging down into the burrows, but after reaching a depth of 6 feet, they switched tactics and attempted to flush the critters out. They spent an entire day hauling buckets of water up from the Missouri River and dumping them down the holes, says J. Buckley, a history professor at Brigham Young University and author of several books on Lewis and Clark and Western exploration. Eventually they flushed one out, put it in a cage and sent it to Jefferson. Incredibly, it made the trip alive. There was some disagreement over what to name the curious creatures. Lewis called them barking squirrels, while Clark referred to them as ground rats or burrowing squirrels. It was Sergeant John Ordway, an Army volunteer, who first called them prairie dogs. Lewis marvels at a jackass rabbit. On September 14, 1804, near Chamberlain, South Dakota, one of the men killed a large white hare whose long, donkey-like ears inspired the name jackass rabbit, later shortened to jackrabbit. In his journal, Lewis marveled at the jackrabbit's flexible ears, which the animal could dilate and throw forward, or contract and fold back at pleasure. He observed the jackrabbit could leap 18 to 20 feet in a single bound. On the very same day near the mouth of Ball Creek in South Dakota, Clark shot a buck goat of an intriguing species of deer. In his journal, Lewis described the striking animal as having forked horns or prongs and its brains of the back of his head. Consulting his 8-volume A New and Complete Dictionary of Arts and Sciences, published in 1764 by W. Owen, Lewis concluded that he is more like the antelope or gazelle of Africa than any other species of goat. In fact, the pronghorn is neither goat, antelope or deer, and belongs to its own family, Antilochobridae. The pronghorn is also the fastest 4-legged species in North America, reaching top sprinting speeds of 60 miles per hour. Lewis and Clark stuffed 2 pronghorn, 1 male and 1 female, and shipped them back east to Jefferson. The mournful wails and yelps of coyotes followed Lewis and Clark to the Pacific and back, but the team shot and identified the first of this new species on September 18, 1804 near Chamberlain, South Dakota, and Clark called it a prairie wolf. "I killed a prairie wolf, about the size of a gray fox, bushy tail head and ears like a wolf, some fur burrows in the ground and barks like a small dog," wrote Clark. Grizzlies, rattlesnakes, bison nearly killed the explorers. Not all of Lewis and Clark's animal encounters were so calm and collected. One of my favorite moments is when Lewis is all alone at the Great Falls in Montana, says Buckley. In a 24-hour period, he's nearly bitten by a rattlesnake, attacked by a wolverine, charged by a bison and eaten by a grizzly bear. That night, in his journal he says, "The entire animal kingdom has conspired against me." As for grizzlies, Lewis and Clark were skeptical at first of the native Mandan and Hadatz's accounts of white bears weighing over 1,000 pounds, and the explorers scoffed at the war paint and other superstitious rites the Indians performed before setting out to hunt the mythical beasts. But later, while traversing Montana, Lewis and Clark became believers. In his trademark creative spelling, Lewis described a most tremendous-looking animal, and extremely hard to kill, notwithstanding he had 5 balls through his lungs and 5 others in various parts, and made the most tremendous roaring from the moment he was shot. When Lewis had his close call with a grizzly in Great Falls, he described a massive bear chasing him open-mouthed and full speed into the river. With nowhere to run, Lewis spun around to face the grizzly armed only with his spear-headed spontoon. To his great relief, the animal retreated. So it was, and I felt myself not a little gratified that he had declined the combat, wrote Lewis. Despite the great care taken by Lewis and Clark to collect specimens and include detailed descriptions and measurements of plants and animals in their journals, the men never achieved scientific fame in their lifetimes. After their triumphant return in 1806, Lewis planned to write a 3-volume account of their expedition, with an entire volume dedicated exclusively to scientific research, and principally to the natural history of those hitherto unknown regions. But Lewis, overburdened in his new post as governor of Louisiana, died suddenly in 1809, and when the expedition journals were finally published in 1814, the editors left out almost all of the zoological and scientific reports. It wasn't until 1893 that a new edition of the journals was published by naturalist Elliott Cowles, who correctly credited Lewis and Clark as scientific trailblazers as well as daring American explorers. Lewis and Clark's expedition, also known as the Corps of Discovery, was a remarkable journey that took place from 1804 to 1806. The expedition was commissioned by President Thomas Jefferson with the goal of exploring the newly acquired Louisiana Purchase, mapping the newly acquired territory, and finding a practical route to the Pacific Ocean. Throughout their travels, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark encountered a diverse range of wildlife. While the primary focus of the expedition was not on scientific discovery, the team documented numerous animal species, some of which were entirely new to Western science. Here are some noteworthy animal encounters from their expedition. Prairie dogs. Lewis and Clark encountered prairie dogs in the Great Plains. They found these rodents to be curious and entertaining, observing their behavior and documenting it in their journals. Buffalo, bison. The expedition encountered vast herds of buffalo in the Great Plains. These animals were crucial to the survival of the expedition, as the explorers relied on them for food and materials. Grizzly bears. The expedition had several encounters with grizzly bears, particularly in the Rocky Mountains. Lewis and Clark noted the size and ferocity of these bears, which presented both a danger and a source of fascination. Elk and deer. Throughout their journey, Lewis and Clark encountered various species of elk and deer, which provided additional sources of food for the expedition. Coyotes and wolves. The explorers also came across coyotes and wolves, observing their behavior and interactions with other wildlife. Salmon. Upon reaching the Pacific Northwest, Lewis and Clark encountered abundant salmon runs in the rivers. The abundance of fish was a significant discovery and a crucial factor in the success of their expedition. Prairie wolves. Coyotes. The expedition encountered what they referred to as prairie wolves, which were likely coyotes. They observed these animals hunting in packs. Moose. In the northern regions of their journey, Lewis and Clark documented encounters with moose, noting the size and distinctive features of these creatures. As Lewis and Clark traversed the expansive prairies of the Great Plains, their expedition stumbled upon a vast colony of prairie dogs. Intrigued by the creature's social dynamics and playful antics, the explorers decided to make camp nearby to observe the rodents in their natural habitat. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting hues of orange and pink across the vast expanse, Lewis and Clark set up a makeshift campfire. The prairie dogs, initially wary of their human visitors, began to emerge from their burrows, cautiously assessing the intruders. The explorers, seated around the flickering fire, watched in amusement as the prairie dogs displayed a curious mix of fear and curiosity. The rodents approached cautiously, their heads bobbing up and down as if engaged in some silent communication. In the glow of the firelight, Lewis noticed a particularly bold prairie dog approaching, seemingly unafraid. Fascinated, he extended a small offering of dried meat, testing the creature's reaction. To everyone's surprise, the prairie dog accepted the offering, snatching the morsel and darting back to its burrow. This unexpected interaction became a nightly ritual. The explorers and prairie dogs developed a peculiar camaraderie, with the rodents cautiously venturing closer each evening. Lewis and Clark marveled at the intelligence and adaptability of these small creatures, drawing parallels between the prairie dog's social structure and the teamwork essential for the success of their own expedition. As the explorers continued their journey, the memory of the prairie dog colony remained etched in their minds, a testament to the diverse and captivating encounters awaiting them on the uncharted path to the Pacific. These animal encounters were just a small part of the vast array of flora and fauna that Lewis and Clark documented during their expedition. Their observations contributed significantly to the scientific understanding of the North American continent at the time. The expedition's journals and specimens collected during the journey provided valuable insights into the geography, ecology, and Native American cultures of the newly explored territories. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.